Hey, let's talk about Chapter 1, Section 2, Levels of Power. When we talk about the second section of Chapter 1, we're actually talking about two groups of systems. The first group includes three systems of government that describe how the various levels of government interact, and let me show you what I mean. We might talk about one level of government being the federal government, the national government, the entire United States of America. Another level of government would be only including Pennsylvania or Virginia or California or whatever the case may be. So we have state governments, we have national governments, and then of course we have local governments such as the counties of the different states. So we have basically a discussion of how do the national, state, and local governments interact with each other, who has power over who, and what would we call the different setups if different levels were more powerful. So the first system we're going to talk about is called the unitary system. Now in a unitary system, the national or federal government has 100% all the power over the regional governments. In the United States, we do not have this type of setup. However, in Great Britain, they do. In Great Britain, they have a unitary system of government. The national government, parliament, they basically tell all the local governments what to do, and the local governments just have to go along with it. In the United States, we are much more familiar with the federal system. And in a federal system of government, the national government has some powers, the state governments have some powers, and theoretically, they are co-equal in the amount of power. That's what a federal system means. Basically, an equality of power between the national government and the state governments. The final system we might talk about would be called the Confederate system. And in a Confederate system, the state or regional governments actually have more power than the national government. So the national government might be able to ask them to do things, but it can't really direct them to do things. And you'll remember from United States history, we could discuss the Confederate States of America, where the national government at that time could ask the states for tax money and to send troops, but the states did not have to comply, which created many problems under the Articles of Confederation and eventually led to the creation of the Constitution. Right now, perhaps the most recognizable alliance or confederacy that we could talk about is the European Union. And the European Union countries agree that they'll be part of something larger, but each country remains sovereign and has power over itself. So that's kind of the first part of Chapter 1, Section 2. Unitary system versus federal system versus confederate system of government. The second half of the section deals with systems, but it's a completely different idea. It's an idea of how do the executive branch and legislative branch interact with each other. And we're going to look at the difference between a presidential system and a parliamentary system. Let's take these one at a time. In a presidential system of government, the chief executive is the president. So here we see our president. He, the chief executive, is not a member of the legislative branch. So if we talk about people who make laws, the chief executive is not a member of the legislative branch. And in the presidential system, of course, we call him or her the president. In a parliamentary system of government, the chief executive is the prime minister. Here you see the current prime minister of England, David Cameron. He is a member of the legislative branch. Here you see his seat in Parliament, so he's a member there. He's a part of the lawmaking body. But the head of state is someone else. It is not the prime minister. It's a completely different person. In this case, the Queen. So there are some quick differences between the presidential system and parliamentary system, and how the chief executive is a little bit different in each one. That is Chapter 1, Section 2 in a nutshell. Please come to class with any questions, and be prepared to work through some activities dealing with these concepts.